Good day and welcome back. How's it going today? Today I'm finalizing my participation in these various treasure hunts in order to move on, hopefully, with my life. And today I'm going to give you my final thoughts on the John Collins Black treasure hunt for the Forrest Fenn Box. Now, for those people who are familiar with this, they know that there's a book called "There's Treasure Inside," and there's a puzzle for the John Collins Black's interpretation of Forrest Fenn's poem, and he claims to have hidden an item where he might have looked for Forrest Fenn's treasure. Well, I attached a video to this particular show of some of my thoughts that might lead to a place where John Collins Black put his treasure. Well, he's now revised his requirements and said that the elevation is above the spot that I have put in this video. So obviously it can't be at the Preston Tri-Point, right? Because you'd have to go uphill a little bit from there in order to get to a location that might have been in John Collins' search area. So I just put that video in the link below so that you can look at my original thoughts on where this was possibly hidden. But he's recently updated the criteria. And that's one of the things that these treasure hunt creators like to do is, once you get close to finding it, they move it, to make it more difficult. I think the consensus right now on John Collins Black's treasure box as a tribute to the Forrest Fenn is in the northern states, if you will. I think a lot of the community probably think it's in that around Yellowstone National Park area. And I'm not going to say that he didn't duplicate the Jack Stoof information idea in his solve and put it there. But the question you have to ask yourself, he says he searched for the Forrest Fenn treasure. And I'm starting to doubt how much he actually searched for the Forrest Fenn treasure, because at the time that he said he was searching for the Forrest Fenn treasure, he was also the CMO of a company called Game, and it was a startup company. It was a startup company directed at making a Bitcoin available for the gaming industry for people to trade, and later it was sold out to the Shalom brothers, who walked away with like $50 million. But anyway, my point is, how much boots on the ground can you really attribute to John Collins Black in the time that he said that he was searching for this treasure? Because a part of that time, he was a CMO of a startup company, and then he took on a little bit less of a role for that company, let's say moving into 2018 or so. And then, of course, he has this famous trip where he went to Japan. Uh, it's a little sketchy when you try to put together a timeline for when John Collins Black would have looked for the Forrest Fenn treasure and where he might have actually looked for it. And he says that he went to all four states looking for the treasure in that period of time. And I don't know when he admits to have been the first boots. He's not given us any idea of when he actually looked for the treasure. But certainly, I think he gives us a timeline when he started looking for it in his book, and how that origin story in the book tells you about that. But you know, the preponderance of the information solved, if you will, for the John Collins Black treasure leads me to believe the following. John Collins Black knows the state of the search area. And it may or may not be the state that Jack Stoof said, which is Wyoming. And I think he was given enough information about previous information that Forrest Fenn had in order to fairly well duplicate the experience that most searchers would have had in the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt. In other words, his clues are very closely aligned with the clues that Forrest Fenn gave out for his poem. And so if you compare and contrast the two poems, you have reciprocal or almost similar information in the two poems. And I'm just going off of that as my assumption. Um, that's what the idea that he sprinkled in the narrative of the Nooker group into his presentation, uh, gives you some pretty strong evidence of what they were aiming to accomplish with the Forrest Fenn finding of the John Collins Black treasure. Now, this is probably scheduled to happen at a certain time in the future, and it's going to basically just verify the information that's already out there about the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt and provide further evidence that, hey, look, Jack Stoof was looking in the right place, and so was John. I don't think this treasure creator is going to try to come off as somebody that didn't have the right solve. Okay. And so he's not going to want to admit to not even looking in the right place for the treasure. And so for it to not be hidden anywhere far away from the current narrative of the Jack Stu finding and Wyoming, I just don't see that this guy would hide a treasure somewhere other than that, because to do that would say that, hey, my idea about where the treasure was hidden was totally wrong, and my interpretation of the poem was totally wrong, because this is what was presented as being the solved location. But that's my final. Those are my final thoughts on this John Collins Black treasure hunt for the Forrest Fenn box. I think it was hidden exactly where Forrest Fenn truly hid his treasure. All right, everybody have a great life. I'm moving on from that. Unless further information comes about, I see no real reason to revisit this. Once again, I collected my handlebar. And I feel like I've done my due diligence in going back to the place, to the road that I know.